Very good evening. Welcome to State of Business on our television. I'm Ashing Sani Veerasinghe. Let's have a look at the headlines for today. New Cabinet of Ministers was sworn in today morning. Inflation increase in October 2019 compared to September 2019. News in detail. The new Cabinet of Ministers took oaths before President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat today morning. Newly appointed Premier Mahinda Rajapaksa took oaths and assumed duties yesterday. Thus, the Prime Minister and 15 other ministers were appointed with ministerial positions to the cabinet of the interim government. These ministers will serve in their respective posts until the general election that will be held next year. Thus, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa took oaths as the Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs, Policy Development, Buddha Sasana Cultural, Water Supply and Urban Development and Housing Facilities Ministries. Meanwhile, Nimal Siripala de Silva was appointed as the Minister of Justice, Human Rights and Legal Reforms. Arumugam Thondaman took oaths as the Minister of Community Empowerment and Estate Infrastructure. Dinesh Gunawardena is the new Minister of Foreign Affairs, Skills Development, Employment and Labour Relations. Douglas Devananda is the Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. Pavitra Vanyarachi was sworn in as the Minister of Women and Child Affairs, Social Security, Health and Indigenous Medicine. Bandula Gunawardena is the Minister of Information and Communication Technology, Higher Education, Technology and Innovations. Janaka Bandara Tennakon was appointed as the Minister of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government. Chamal Rajapaksa is the Minister of Mahavala Development, Agriculture and Trade. Dallas Salahaperuma is the Minister of Education, Sports and Youth Affairs. Johnson Fernando took oaths as the Minister of Roads and Highways, Ports and Shipping. Mahinda Amaraveera is the Minister of Passenger Transport, Power and Energy. Vimal Veeravansa is the Minister of Small Medium Enterprise and Enterprise Development, Industries and Supply Management. S.N. Chandrasena took oaths as the Minister of Environment, Wildlife, Land and Land Development. And thereby, Ramesh Pathirana took oaths as the Minister of Plantations and Export Agriculture, while Prasanna Ranatunga was sworn in as the Minister of Industrial Exports and Investment Promotions, Tourism and Aviation. Thus, following the minister's swearing-in ceremony, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also informed that the state ministers of the interim government will be appointed next Monday. Headline inflation, as measured by the year-on-year change in the National Consumer Price Index, increased to 5.6% in October 2019 from 5% in September 2019. Accordingly, food inflation increased to 7.3% in October 2019 from 4.9% in September 2019. However, non-food inflation recorded 4.3%, continuing its decreasing trend observed since May 2019. The change in the NCPI measured on an annual average basis increased to 2.8% in October 2019 from 2.3% in September 2019. Monthly change of NCPI recorded 1% in October 2019, and it was solely due to the price increases observed in the items of food category. Within the food category, prices of big onions, rice and vegetables recorded increases, and meanwhile, prices of items in the non-food category declined during the month owing to price decreases of the items in housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, transport and health subcategories. The core inflation, which reflects the underlying inflation in the economy, remained unchanged at 5.6% in October 2019 on year-on-year basis. However, annual average core inflation increased to 5.4% in October 2019 from 5.2% in September 2019. The new Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, Oshada Senanayake, states that digital and technology spheres play a key role in taking Sri Lanka to the hyper-growth status. He made these observations at an event organized by Vietmaga just before the presidential elections.
I think the digital and the technology sphere would have to play a major role in making sure that we take Sri Lanka to a hyper-growth cycle, which we are all looking forward to. In Sri Lanka, if you look at the demographics, from 15 years to 29 years, there's about 23% of our population focused on that segment. Now, if you look at the technocratic front, there's a lot of startups popping up in Sri Lanka, which is a good thing. We have one of the most strong, vibrant startup ecosystems that is prevailing across Southeast Asia. I can confidently say that. If I take the IT industry, we've just crossed a $1 billion mark in exports. The tea industry, with all respect, took about 60 to 70 years to come to that stage. Across the last 13 years, we've crossed the 1 billion mark. So you can imagine the potential and the support that the IT industry can give Sri Lanka in this journey for hypergrowth. Now, if we again look at the companies and the startups and the innovation, we've been building world-class solutions for Fortune 100s, world standard, world brands that is synonymous. We are driving airline systems, we are driving telco systems across the world, and then why not look inward and use this technology and the know-how to basically drive the betterment of Sri Lanka.
Speaking further, Oshita Senanayake explained that Sri Lanka should actively work on innovation and disruption to cause a positive change.
A lot of countries are driving forward on a lot of disruptive action. If you take France, they're using IoT and they have a significant GDP growth just focusing on IoT innovation. Why not Sri Lanka? If you look at, more importantly, the growth trajectory, technology would have immense role to play across all the industries as well as enabling the government sectors.
Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka announces that it strongly objects to the statement released by the Fitch Ratings on November 21, 2019, titled Sri Lanka Election Results Increases Policy Uncertainty, as it depicts the complete opposite of a realized positive market response to the outcome of the presidential elections, followed by the assumption of duties by the President and ongoing key appointments. Thus, the CBSL statement says that the domestic foreign exchange market as well as debt and equity markets have responded positively to the outcome of the election. Central Bank went on to explain that the Sri Lankan rupee has appreciated by more than 1 rupee against the US dollar during the 4 days since the conclusion of the election. It further explains that during this period there has also been a sharp decline in the forward premium, reinforcing expectations of a further appreciation of the rupee. In the government securities market, primary market yields declined sharply at the auction for treasury bills held on 20th November 2019, while the secondary market yields have also declined notably across the yield curve. Foreign investors have continued to invest notable amounts of funds in the Sri Lankan rupee-denominated government securities. Moreover, the central bank says that the all-share price index of the Colombo Stock Exchange has increased significantly over the past few days, and ignoring these positive market trends is a material omission in the statement issued by Fitch Ratings. As the government is still being formed, the central bank announces that it is of the opinion that it is premature for any analyst to express a view of the precise policy path of the new government and its potential outcome. There is a high likelihood that the aforesaid positive market sentiments could strengthen further in the period. As per the statistics of the central bank in September 2019, the trade deficit increased with the decrease in export earnings exceeding the decrease in import spending. It further states that in September 2019, the fall in tourist arrivals has been further contained and workers' remittances rose in the same month, though cumulatively decreasing. The deficit in the trade account widened in September 2019 to 758 million US dollars in comparison to 713 million US dollars in September 2018. However, on a cumulative basis, the trade deficit contracted by 2,341 million US dollars to 5,613 million US dollars during the first 9 months of 2019 in comparison to 7,953 million US dollars in corresponding to 2018. Meanwhile, in terms of trade, which represent the relative price of imports in terms of exports, declined by 2.5% as export prices reduced at a faster pace than the reduction in import prices. In cumulative terms, the terms of trade deteriorated by 0.4% during the first 9 months of 2019 in comparison to that of 2018. Subsequently, earnings from merchandise exports declined notably by 9.8% to 952 million US dollars in September 2019 due to the decline in exports in all 3 major sectors. Earnings from textiles garments declined for the first time since July 2018 on a year-on-year basis, led by a notable drop of 13.9% of garment exports to the USA owing to the base effect despite a 3.2% growth in exports to the EU market. Moving on, earnings from agricultural exports declined in September 2019, contributed by lower earnings of all subcategories except vegetables and minor agricultural products. The European Aviation Safety Agency extends an important certification of Sri Lankan engineering, the aircraft maintenance, repair, overhaul arm of Sri Lankan Airlines, following a comprehensive audit. The latest extension of EASA Part 145 certification followed a comprehensive 6-day audit by a team from EASA of Sri Lankan Engineering's facilities at Bandaranaike International Airport and in the Maldivian capital, Malé. The reaffirmation of the EASA Part 145 certification further strengthens Sri Lankan engineering's position as a key provider of aircraft maintenance and engineering services for airlines throughout South Asia, Middle East and Africa. The technical arm of Sri Lanka's national carrier also holds approvals from numerous national aviation authorities including Singapore, China, India, Qatar, UAE and Bahrain, apart from Civil Aviation Authority Sri Lanka and European Aviation Safety Agency. Group Chief Executive Officer of Sri Lankan Airlines Vipula Gunathilaka said Sri Lankan Engineering is now poised to launch itself as a maintenance, repair and operations of choice with its superior engineering expertise of over 40 years and modern hangar complex and workshops that have been certified to the finest global standards. Senior Manager Aircraft Maintenance of the airline Arjuna Kapugikiyana added that the reaffirmation of the EASA approval demonstrates the quality of airline services and adherence to higher standards. Now a review on the stock performances for the past week and a stock forecast for the coming week will be brought to you by a subject expert at First Capital Holdings.
With the completion of the presidential election, market went through a major spike on Monday, gaining about 106 points with turnover also exceeding 2 billion rupees as we saw heavy buying across the board. However, the energy was short-lived as the market saw a bit of profit taking for the gains made over the last couple of weeks. However, the rest of the week was stagnant with the index also being stagnant and the investors sort of being in two minds. Turnover levels continue to remain on the high side on Wednesday, also recording turnover above 2 billion rupees. Net foreign selling continued to dominate the market without change on all days, with JK dominating the net foreign selling. Retail, high net worth individuals and institutions and also foreigners all were heavily active in the market during this week. Looking at the upcoming week, we expect mixed reactions in the market. If you take the overall market is likely to slow down while investors may adopt a selective buying mode as most investors look at restructuring their portfolios in order to look at more value-adding counters. We believe that a stagnant market provides a good opportunity to accumulate stocks. So thereby with consumer demand starting to slowly gather momentum, we expect investors to move into consumer counters. With the significant undervaluation in the banks, we expect banking stocks also to be very attractive and them to fall into the investor favorite category in the upcoming weeks.
Stay tuned for stock updates after this short break. Welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 19.06 points to close at 6,119.27 and the S&P SL20 dropped 6.35 points to close at 3,022. The turnover was 925 million rupees and over 61 million shares were traded. Up next are Forex rates. That's all the news for today. Join us tomorrow on Biz Roundup. Until then, take care. Have a good weekend.